Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going deep on a book that really caught my eye. Who does she think she is? The Heart-Centered Path to Professional
Oh,
Excellence.
yeah, I saw that one pop up too. What's got you interested?
I think it's the authors themselves. It's written by two women with these incredibly different backgrounds. Like, I was just blown away by their bios.
Yeah, I can see that. Who are they? Fill me in.
Okay, so one is Adriana Rosales. She was in the Air Force, even spent time in Space Command,
Wow, okay. That's pretty impressive.
right? And she goes on to work in telecommunications, like completely different worlds,
Hmm.
and then becomes an entrepreneur.
So she's got that real world business experience. That's cool.
Yeah. And she also founded this community called Latinas 100 to support other Latina entrepreneurs and writers.
So she's got that community building side too. Interesting. What about the other author?
The other author is Dr. Wajhma Aboud. She comes from healthcare finance and administration, worked at Stanford University, and now she's at the American Academy of Ophthalmology.
Huh. So her background is more in that academic and healthcare world. Very different from Adriana Rosales' trajectory.
Totally. And that's what I find so fascinating. They come from such different worlds, but they've come together to write this book about leadership.
Makes you wonder what they have in common, right? Like what connects their experiences.
Exactly. And from what I've read so far, it seems like that common thread is this idea of feminine leadership energy.
Feminine leadership energy. Okay, now I'm intrigued. What exactly does that mean?
Well, that's what we're going to explore. They argue that qualities like empathy, intuition, and collaboration, what they call feminine leadership energy, are key to building successful and thriving organizations, especially in today's complex world.
Okay, I'm listening. I'm curious to hear how they tie this back to their own experiences. Because like we said, they come from pretty different backgrounds.
Right. So let's unpack that. On one hand, you have Adriana Rosales with her military and tech background.
Hmm.
Those are typically seen as more masculine environments, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But then she also has this focus on community and connection, especially with her work with Latinas 100 Delo. So she brings both of those perspectives.
That's interesting. So it's like she's bridging those two worlds.
Exactly. And then there's Dr. Aboud navigating the healthcare world, which I imagine requires a lot of collaboration and empathy just to function.
Yeah, for sure. It's a field where you're constantly dealing with people's health and well-being. You can't just be all about the bottom line.
Right. So they argue that it's not about being soft or avoiding tough decisions. It's about having that holistic view.
I like that. So it's not just about being nice. It's about bringing a more well-rounded perspective to leadership, considering the human side of things along with the strategic side.
Absolutely. And they seem to argue that this is especially important for women who often feel pressured to conform to those more traditional kind of, well, masculine leadership models.
Yeah, I can see that. Like there's this expectation that women need to be tough and assertive to be taken seriously as leaders.
Which can sometimes lead to them suppressing those qualities that are traditionally seen as more feminine.
Right, like empathy and collaboration.
Exactly. So they're basically challenging that whole idea and saying, hey, these qualities are actually strengths, not weaknesses.
Now, I'm really interested to hear how they developed this idea together. Like, what was the spark that led them to write this book?
Yeah, what was that aha moment for them?
Right, what made them think we need to get this message out there? Because it's definitely a message that resonates with a lot of people, especially women in leadership.
And it's not just about complaining about the old ways of doing things. They actually offer concrete strategies for change, like real practical advice for how to cultivate that feminine leadership energy. But before we get into all of that, I think it's important to understand where they're coming from. What experiences shaped their views on leadership?
Totally. Let's dig into their backgrounds a bit more, because I think that's what makes this book so unique. It's not just theory, it's rooted in their own lived experiences.
Exactly. So let's start with Adriana Rosales. I mean, starting her career in the Air Force, that's got to shape your perspective on leadership, right?
Oh, yeah. Talk about a high-pressure environment. Structure, discipline, clear hierarchy that's got to be ingrained in you after that experience.
Absolutely. And then she goes into the fast-paced world of telecommunications. Like, talk about a competitive industry.
Right. You got to be tough and decisive to survive in that world.
So she's clearly comfortable in those traditionally masculine environments. But then she also founds this community, Latinas 100, which is all about supporting and empowering other women.
So it's like she's got this dual perspective. She understands the value of those more masculine qualities, but also recognizes the importance of bringing in those feminine qualities.
Exactly. And that's what I find so compelling about her story. It's like she's saying, You don't have to choose one or the other. You can be both.
Okay, that makes sense for Adriana Rosales. But what about Dr. Aboud? How does her background in healthcare finance and administration tie into all of this?
That's what I'm curious about, too. Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready when you are.
All right, so let's talk Dr. Regal about. I'm really curious to hear how her background fits into this whole feminine leadership energy idea.
Yeah, healthcare finance and administration. That's a pretty specialized field.
It is. You'd think it would be all about numbers and data.
Right. Not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when you think of feminine qualities.
So how do they connect those dots in the book?
Well, they actually bring up this really interesting framework for understanding leadership styles. It's based on the work of Dr. Pauline Crawford, who identifies these four main leadership archetypes.
Archetypes. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, they're called the ruler, the philosopher, the magician, and the sovereign.
Those are pretty strong images. How do those translate to the real world? Like in a typical workplace setting, are we talking kings and queens here?
No, not exactly.
Yeah.
But the idea is that each archetype represents a different approach to leadership, a different set of strengths.
Okay, so like, give me an example. What would a ruler be like in, say, a corporate office?
So a ruler is all about structure, efficiency, taking charge, decisive, sets clear expectations. Think of a CEO who's very command and control, gets things done.
Ah, I see. So someone who thrives in that kind of top-down environment.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have the philosopher, more analytical, thoughtful, values fairness, the type of leader who's great at strategy, problem solving, and creating a sense of justice.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. I actually had a mentor early in my career who was a total philosopher, brilliant at untangling complex problems, and she always made sure everyone felt heard and understood.
There you go. Perfect example. And the magician, this one's a bit different. They're all about innovation, inspiration, connecting with people on a more emotional level. Think of a leader who's charismatic, can rally the troops around a vision.
Ah, so they bring the energy and excitement.
Exactly. They're the spark. And then finally, the sovereign. They're all about nurturing, empowering others, fostering collaboration, creating a sense of community. Think of a leader who prioritizes mentorship and building a culture of care within the team.
Okay, so four very distinct styles. But I imagine most people don't fit neatly into just one box, right?
Exactly. That's where it gets interesting. The idea is that we all have a bit of each archetype within us, but one tends to be dominant.
Ah, so it's about understanding which one is your go-to style.
Yes. And then learning how to leverage its strengths, but also develop those other aspects. They call it finding your authentic harmony.
That makes sense. So it's not about trying to be someone you're not. It's about understanding yourself and how you naturally lead. But how do you actually put that into practice? Like knowing your archetype is one thing, but how do you actually use that knowledge to become a better leader?
Well, that's where the book gets really practical. They offer all these different strategies tailored to each archetype.
Oh, interesting. So like specific advice based on your dominant leadership style.
Exactly. For example, if you're a ruler, they might suggest ways to become more collaborative. Maybe incorporating more feedback from your team, delegating more effectively.
Makes sense. And for someone like me, who I guess would be more of a philosopher, maybe they'd suggest ways to be more assertive or to, step into that leadership role more confidently.
Exactly. It's about identifying those areas where you can grow and then intentionally developing those skills. And the cool thing is they share a lot of their own experiences in the book, like how they learn to embrace their own leadership styles and navigate those challenges.
I remember that story about Adriana Rosales ending up in the ER from stress. I mean, that's a pretty intense example of what can happen when you push yourself too hard.
Oh, yeah, that one really stuck with me, too. It's a good reminder that even the most driven leaders need to prioritize their well-being.
Right. Because if you're constantly burning the candle at both ends, it's going to catch up with you eventually.
And it's not just about you. Remember that trickle-down effect they talk about? Your energy, whether it's positive or negative, impacts everyone around you.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're stressed and frazzled, your team's going to feel that. But if you're calm, focused, energized, that creates a much more positive and productive atmosphere.
Exactly. And that's why they emphasize the importance of self-awareness, not just in terms of understanding your leadership archetype, but also recognizing how your energy impacts others.
So it's like being mindful of your own state of mind and how that's affecting the people around you.
Yeah, and they give you all these practical tips for managing stress, setting boundaries, creating more balance in your life.
Okay, that's really helpful. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to take care of ourselves.
And they're not saying you have to become some kind of Zen master or anything, but just being more aware of your own needs and making time for self-care, because that actually makes you a better leader in the long run.
So it's not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually essential for effective leadership.
Exactly. And it goes back to that feminine leadership energy idea. When you take care of yourself, you're more present, more empathetic, more able to show up as your best self for your team.
I like that. It's about recognizing that self-care isn't a luxury, it's an investment.
Totally. An investment in yourself, your team, and the success of the organization.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding your leadership style and prioritizing self-care. What are some of the other key takeaways from the book? Like, in terms of actually putting this feminine leadership energy into action?
Well, one of the big things they emphasize is building genuine connections with your team.
Okay, so not just being a manager, but actually being a leader who cares about the people they work with.
Exactly. And they talk about active listening, asking meaningful questions, creating a space where people feel safe to share their ideas and their concerns, even their vulnerabilities.
It makes a huge difference when you feel like your leader actually cares about what you have to say. I remember not just becoming a better leader, but also for building a better world.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about recognizing that our actions, our choices, our leadership, they have ripple effects.
And that we all have the power to make a positive impact.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this book so inspiring. It's not just about climbing the corporate ladder. It's about creating a more just and fulfilling world for everyone.
Okay, you've convinced me. This book is definitely going on my reading list. But before we move on, is there one key takeaway, one piece of advice that you think everyone should take to heart from this book?
That's a tough one. There's so much good stuff in there. But if I had to choose just one, it would be this. Lead with both your head and your heart. It really is. It's about finding that balance, right, between strategy and empathy, logic and intuition, being assertive, but also compassionate.
And it's something we can all strive for, regardless of our role or title. Like, it's not just for CEOs or managers. It's a way of being in the world.
Absolutely. You know, one thing we haven't really touched on is the title itself. Who does she think she is? I mean, it's a pretty provocative question, right?
It is. And the more I think about it, the more I love it. It's like they're taking back that question, flipping the script.
Yeah, like it's usually meant to be dismissive, right? To put women in their place.
Right.
But they're reclaiming it, turning it into a statement of power.
Exactly. It's like saying, yeah, I'm a woman, I'm a leader, and I'm not afraid to own my ambition and make a difference.
And they're not just talking about individual success either. They really emphasize this idea of building a legacy.
A legacy. Okay, tell me more about that.
It's about thinking beyond your own achievements and considering the impact you want to have on the world. You know, what do you want to be remembered for? What kind of change do you want to create?
That's powerful. It's about making a contribution that goes beyond just your own career or your own lifetime.
Exactly. And they argue that this is especially important for women who have historically been excluded from positions of power and influence.
It's like they're saying we have a responsibility to use our voices, our talents, our leadership to make the world a better place.
Exactly. And I think that ties back to that idea of feminine leadership energy.
Yeah.
You know, caring for others, building community, nurturing those around you.
So it's not just about breaking glass ceilings. It's about changing the game altogether.
I think that's a great way to put it. They're really challenging us to rethink what success looks like and how we define leadership.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
I think it's this: we all have the power to lead, to make a difference, to create a more just and equitable world. And it doesn't matter your gender, your title, your background.
That's beautifully said. And I think this book, Who Does She Think She Is a fantastic guide for anyone who's ready to step into that power and embrace a more heart-centered approach to leadership.
Couldn't agree more. It's an inspiring read, and I think it has the potential to really shift the conversation about leadership in a positive direction.
I'm with you on that. All right, folks, that's it for our deep dive this week. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to the book and all the other resources we talked about. And until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.